Hello, this is the start of the half Hap shawl. This is one of my completed shawls, and you can see what we're going to start with is this centre triangle here. We start at the point and then we're going to knit a triangle that increases outwards and also introduces this lace pattern. The most important thing about the start of the shawl and the triangle is the yarn over increases, which you can see here at the beginning of every row. So that's what I'm going to demonstrate in this video. So let me take the shawl out of the way. The centre of the shawl starts with a slip knot. So if you make your slip knot and place it on the left needle. The feature that is unusual, probably from other knitting you've done, is that every row in the centre triangle starts with a yarn over increase. So that means if you are someone who holds the yarn in their right hand, you need to bring the yarn over the right needle before you go into that very first stitch. And then we just knit one. The centre triangle is all in garter stitch, so we are going to knit every row. So every row will begin the same, yarn over, knit to the end. Then yarn over, so if you start with your right needle underneath the yarn, it will automatically go over. So it's as if you were going to do a purl, but we're not, we're going to do a knit stitch. So we go over the right needle and into the stitch. When you first start knitting this triangle, it may feel slightly odd because it's not a technique that we often use, but it is a fairly straightforward technique once you've got the hang of it. You may also notice that you're getting quite large loops at the edge, and that's perfectly alright because that's important as part of the construction of the shawl later on. So I've got 2, 4, 6 stitches. I've just completed a right side row. I'm now going to work a wrong side row. In garter stitch, the knitting looks exactly the same on either side. So you may find it helpful when you've got the right side facing you, and one way to check that is if you've got an odd number of stitches. So here I've got 7 stitches on my needle now. I started with 1, so I'm going to have an odd number at the beginning of a right side row. I would usually place a locking stitch marker into the fabric on the right side to remind me which is the right side of my fabric. Initially it's not important because both sides look exactly the same, but once you start working the lace pattern, it is important to know which side of the pattern you are on, because all the lace rows are worked on right side rows even though we are still working in a garter stitch fabric. I will also demonstrate for if anybody does knit in the continental style with the yarn in their left hand. So I'll just move my yarn across to the other side. So again, you've still got to make sure, bring the yarn back, you've still got to make sure that the yarn goes over the right needle before you go into the first stitch. So again, you need to make sure you've got the yarn over before you go into the first stitch to pull the yarn through. So I'll just do one more demonstration of that when I get to the end of this row. Pull that stitch through. So again, when I start the row, I need to make sure that the yarn is going over my right needle before I go into the first stitch, and then wrap the yarn around the right needle again. The centre triangle starts with about 20 rows of garter stitch increasing at the edge, and then on row 21 the lace pattern will start. It is explained in the pattern that you start following the chart. Once you get to the beginning of the lace row, you will then start adding your lace motifs. But this demonstration was to show you how to do your yarn overs at the beginning of every row so that we get these loops, which are very important for the rest of the shawl.